So the astrolabes, some of them spherical, and the regular astrolabe. That's Ulugh Beg. Astronomy, one of the towards the 15th century. This one's still standing in Samarkand. And that's this astronomy institute in Samarkand. They've kind of remodeled it, and there is a crater on the moon that NASA has dedicated to his honor. And this is one of his busts, I believe, in Samarkand. So this was part of the larger Persian Empire, the whole Central Asia. They spoke both the Persian language as well as the Arabic. Arabic was the mainstream language of science, much more sophisticated, much more diverse. It was close to the Arabic Quranic grammar, according to some reference, as close to
2.5 million words.
And there was a comparison done with English. English has, at best, close to 250,000, so it's a big difference there. Nasiruddin Tusi, again, you can look at him using these huge celestial spherical astrolabes. And Nasiruddin Tusi, again, in his astronomy institute, conducting various experiments. There's a Google Doodle nominated to his name, and you can also see over here one NASA's NASA has set up one of the craters on Moon to his honor, named as Tusi crater. So he is the person who is responsible for eventually being translated the works of all the collective astronomers among the Muslims, and then he is translated eventually by Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler. Hardly any reference made to him. So Iqbal in his reconstruction does have quite a lot of references to him as well. And I would like to read from Iqbal a little bit about what he has mentioned in the reconstruction about Nasiruddin Tusi. So here we go. On the one side of mathematics, it must be remembered that since the days of Ptolemy till the time of Nasiruddin Tusi, nobody gave serious thought to the difficulties of demonstrating the certitude of Euclid's parallel postulate on the basis of perpetual space. It was Tusi who first disturbed the calm which had prevailed in the world of mathematics for 1,000 years, and in this effort to improve the postulate, realized the necessity of abandoning perpetual space. He thus furnished a basis, however slight, for hyperspace movement of our time. That's quite a statement. At another note, Iqbal also mentions in the reconstruction it is Tusi's effort to improve the parallel postulate of Euclid that is believed to have furnished a basis in Europe for the problem of space, which eventually led to the theories of Gauss and Riemann. Carrying on from here, one, Al-Kashi, again astronomer, added more mathematics into sine cosine ratios and so on and so forth. together with Omar Khayyam, I must say. A Sufi, again, some crater named in his honor. Jabir ibn Hayyan, again, one of the giants in chemistry, biochemistry. The description of various substances such as aluminum chloride, white lead, nitric acid, acetic acid is attributed to him. He made the decisive leap from alchemy to modern experimental chemistries. The innovation of sulfuric acid and the germs of classification of elements, periodic table, are also rooted in Jabir's work. So the giant in physics, the father of modern experimental physics, we have Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, Al-Haytham simply in Latin, looking at 11th century over here. So there's a crater on the moon again in his honor. So the inversion of the image in the retina using the pinhole camera, and then eventually looking at the eye and the pupil, how the image is inverted, is described by him. Optic kaishma is described by him in the eye. And splitting of light, prism experiment, also devised spectacles. This is a bust of Al-Haytham. At UNESCO. I'll just quickly read this. Sculpture of Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, produced for the United Nations International Year of Light 2015. Artistic creative representation bust of Ibn al-Haytham, produced by 2001 Inventions or UNESCO International Year of Light 2015. So Francis Bacon mentions him quite a lot, George Sarton, and various others. All the references are at the end of the encyclopedia. These are just for quick, ready references. And Chuzini in particular is one of his students, Abu Fattah al-Chuzini, 11th century later. Describes the three laws of motion, which were literally copied by Newton in his Principia. And Kitab al-Manazir also has the basic descriptions of those laws: inertia, acceleration, and action-reaction, those three laws. So there's a Google Doodle in his honor again, and UNESCO has eventually 2015 in his honor designated that he was the father of modern optics and physics, and in his honor 2015 was designated as the International Year of Light in celebration of Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham. Al-Bruni, geographer, and there's much more to him than has been made evident generally. Khan al-Masudi is one of his books, and there is lots of books on anthropology also by him, and especially about the Indian subcontinent as well as a whole, the Central Asian region, because he traveled very diversely. The science of cartography established. There is references in my grandfather's works about his anthropological studies and the plate tectonics and the land formations of various continental shelves. Cartography in particular, we take our GPS navigation systems so lightly these days, but the roots of those in terms of coordinates are set up by Al-Bruni. The Prince of Travelers, as he's been known by National Geographic Society, Ibn Battuta, geographer and traveler. So he traveled all of the known world. As you can can see from this map around here, and uses various equipment that was already known during his time by the Arab scientists, looking at 14th century. And there is a crater on the moon also designated to his honor under Google Doodle in honor of his 708th birthday. Zhang He, I have already talked about him. He had shown the map of the entire world, and you can see the map of the American continent also in his journals. And he was fluent in various languages, in particular Arabic and Chinese. You can see him using this compass, which he actually improved upon quite a lot, and various other equipment that was already at his disposal from the Arab scientists. And he had close to 27,000 naval crew for his voyages, and this is his one of his ships. Let's just have a more detailed look. So in comparison to Columbus's ship, which is Santa Maria, this is his ships. There were about 450 of these. Zhang He's ship. You can see the sails and had rudders and everything, and you name it. This was very streamlined and seafaring, and there were 450 of this in his fleet, and he took them throughout the world to exchange knowledge, to share knowledge without any imposition of ideologies, exploitation, or any of that. Ahmad ibn Majid, cartographer, again, is known to have shown the way to Captain Cook and Vasco da Gama. Later on, we're looking at 15th century over here. Expert in navigation. PDDs, you can see, not only does he show in his Turkish cartographer and admiral and geographer during the Ottoman Empire. So PDD's map, this one in particular, shows the location of Antarctica as well as America. And he also postulated plate tectonics. You can see that. You can see how the American continent, South American continent has its reminiscence somewhere in Africa. They might have fitted together. So he proposed that and expounded on the theory of plate tectonics, which roots of those were already there with Al-Biruni. I believe they were contemporaries as well. So you can see these are ready references, but as I keep on mentioning, at the end you can see the references elaborately detailed in the encyclopedia itself. So Muhammad bin Musa al-Khwarizmi, mathematician. We're looking at 9th century over here. First person to establish numbers that we take so granted currently, algorithms. In the introduction, I've already explained a little bit about him. So the subject of algebra is expounded upon by him in his book, Al-Jabr wal-Muqabla. He uses mathematical notations taken from the Bhaskara and Brahmagupta Indians, who had kind of postulated it in astrology, but he applies it in mathematics and eventually astronomy. And every time you use a computer, you must remember this person, because without those algorithms of how he explained the mathematics of computer code in his works about a millennia ago, is pretty thought-provoking. And we would have to be stuck with clumsy Roman numerals. And if we had to write 100, we would probably need a few pages. The introduction of zero and decimal system into mathematics, rather than just as a notation, he was the key person to do that, and with that he created what I call the Arab numerals, decimal notations inclusive. So without him, we would still be stuck with the clumsy Roman numerals. Umar Khayyam, again, a mathematician and astronomer. So the Canada arm on which repaired various satellites, including the International Space Station and the Hubble telescope, and with this arm on it, the mathematics involved in the articulation still uses trigonometric ratios that were devised by Umar Khayyam. He's the father of modern trigonometry and spherical trigonometry and geometry, particular sine cosine ratios in trigonometry, and also known as a poet of quite high repute. The principles of binomial theorem and the quadratic equation are also found in his works, and Muhammad bin Musa al-Khwarizmi. Again, there's a Google Doodle in his honor for the year 2012 in commemoration of his 964th birthday. Al-Euclidisi, again, a lot of work in mathematics and representation of mathematics in visual form, calculations. So Quran and science, there's a lot of rudimentary instructions in the Quran in terms of studying the water cycle, plate tectonics, and the atmosphere. The roots are in the Quran, and the words are highly precise and at the same subject to open-ended interpretation in terms of advances in how we understand science. Not that the Quran is a book of science, but the Quran is much more than that. It gives you the impetus to focus on science and the power of doubt, as the Quran calls it, using deduction, empiricism, and the focus on the particular to verify where tadabbur and tafakkur and reflection and deduction and induction. So, but there are certain verses in the Quran that do talk about evolution, water cycle, plate tectonics, the roof, which is the atmosphere, the roots of Big Bang from a much more broader description is there in the Quran. It doesn't say Big Bang, but it says Kun Fayakun, and the words allude to favor the theory of Big Bang and much more than that. And the expanding universe is explained in the Quran with certainty. But there is much more than we currently understand. And as we go along, these words will reveal much more. But I must say the Quran is not a book of science, so to say, but it is a book that does refer to scientific phenomena and does persist that we study sciences. And that's why the Muslim scientists spent so much time and energy into focusing on the empirical attitude, which was the Quran's main contribution to the world. Most definitely upliftment of the human condition, as social values, and was the priority, and justice and love for humanity was the priority, and respect for humanity and upliftment of mankind was the main focus. Keith Moore is one of the scientists who talks about father of modern embryology, Keith Moore, in his book on embryology, which is the mainstream book in embryology. The Quranic words used for the development of the embryo and the stages of embryonic stages are clearly mentioned in the Quran. But we should not reduce the Quran to a book of embryology now, so that is something that you have to tread carefully on, or a book of science. It does mention these, but there is a poignant message included in its reference to scientific phenomena. The message is much more important rather than just what particular it is trying to talk about. The message is focus on improving the human condition, uplift the human condition, share. We don't own anything, everything is owned by the Creator. We are just here passers by, and we are also co-creators simultaneously, which Iqbal mentioned in the reconstruction. And our responsibility is just to basically take care of what we have been given and to uplift the human condition using scientific understanding and using technology. So again, responsibility for uplifting the human condition as a whole is very, very clearly mentioned in the Quran, and to take care of this beautiful planet. And the mention of Earth as a spherical egg is also mentioned in the Quran. This is why the Muslim scientists focused on how is it shaped like an egg, because that was the Greek version was of the flat Earth, and then Muslims eventually create these maps. And as early as Idrisi in 1154, we have already a globe-like map emerging among the Muslims. So I will not go into this much detail because this is a work in progress, and the Noah's Ark ending on Mount Ararat is clearly mentioned in the Quran, that the Ark rested at Mount Judi, which is one of the ranges in Ararat, and that's where they found this fossil remain of this Ark. And these are the images, radiographic images of ground penetrating radar, which show bow and deck, and including the rows of beams, iron beams in this huge seafaring vessel, and it had rested at a very high elevation, I believe somewhere close to 2089 meter above sea level. The Ararat range is much higher, but this is on one of the ranges, mountains in Ararat called Al Judi. That's where they eventually found it. So there are various documentaries done on this as well, and there are links about that in my encyclopedia. This I've already read in the introductory part. I'll not go through this again. The experimental method again devised by Al-Haytham. How to set up a hypothesis, find evidence, agree or disagree based upon the evidence, and basically go back and forth, and the experiment has to be repeatable. That's the experimental method. So we'll just quickly read this part by Bainam et al., Dictionary of History of Science, Macmillan Press, London. So what do they talk about here? So a special concern with knowledge or ilm is deeply rooted in the Islamic tradition. It derives from the central belief that God, Allah, is unknowable. To know God, one must study His signs. Isharat is the Quranic word. That is the natural world. Perception of nature is regarded as a necessary prelude to an awareness of God. Therefore, the pursuit of knowledge is equated with faith and religious duty. So, Iqbal also in Reconstruction does mention such pointed assertions. Another point In the works of the physicist astronomer Al-Hasan al-Haytham, simply Ibn al-Haytham or al-Haytham, and later in al-Farisi, the possibilities of scientific experimentation itibar were fully exploited using dark chambers and precision instruments. In fact, the Latin camera obscura is the translation of the Arabic Baitul Sulma. So this is the pinhole camera of al-Haytham that Bainam et al. Are talking about. So this is more reference about the drogue stones around the area in eastern Turkey, the shape of the vessel, looking from an aerial view of it, and the dimensions, 515 feet in dimensions. These are the GPS locations as well, and these drogue stones that are close to the area which used to keep these huge vessels steady. They're mentioned in Sumerian texts and various scriptures as well. So this legend is not a legend, it's something that had happened and is mentioned in all the ancient texts throughout history, including the Quran and Sumeric texts from Sumeria, and even ancient texts from China and India, and do mention the flood account, as it's called. So this is the school of Athens. Raphael, the painter, the famous painter of all these philosophers. And you have at number 5 around here, this gentleman is Averroes or Ibn Rushd. Okay, we mentioned all of them, many of them are there. Some are doubtful whether it's Parmenides or Da Vinci, but however, the school of Athens is very popular, and you have Ibn Rushd depicted very clearly here, and his impact on the world as a whole. So the environment is again very well described in the Quran, our responsibility to uphold it and in a sustainable manner. So many verses in the Quran allude to this fact. We will not read all of them, but everything belongs to the Creator is repeatedly mentioned, that we should not take pride in ownership and basically exploitation and imperialism, and we should not be having any sort of damaging technologies. We should look for ways to uplift the human condition and at the same time work in sync and harmony with nature. So these are the kind of windmills that were used in the Middle Ages by the Arabs. There was about 5,000 plus mills in Islamic Spain alone. They were all working on renewable technologies, whether these were water wheels, hydropower industry, including these windmills, which were vertical axis windmills, and it's known from new studies that they work actually better than the horizontally mounted windmills. And now there is a lot of windmills coming in this design, which are much more efficient in producing power. So this idea of dynamic model again is again, you can see it in the Islamic texts, that there should be a balance between all parts, economies, the social, and the environment. let's look at some of the scientists of current era. Farooq al-Baz is one of them. There you go. Discovered the pioneering Muslim scientists of the modern era. Farooq al-Baz was a geologist, and his study of geology was very instrumental in studying the moon and eventually landing Apollo on the moon. You can see him working here at NASA. So, and here he is, al-Baz training NASA team scientist, Ronald Evans and Robert Meyer. And I believe there is in Star Trek, there's a vehicle named after him, al-Baz. You can see that mentioned over there as well. Dr. Nurul Uwais Jilani, he is a neurosurgeon, among the very few top neurosurgeons who work on a special child pediatric neurosurgery in particular, and he heads the team at Great Ormond Street in London, one of the top institutions for pediatric neurosurgery. He is the person responsible for separating quite a few congenital twins, which are kind of sealed at the head, and then he basically did surgeries to separate congenital twins, and who successfully separated. There's a few operations he has conducted since this one is published in 2015, but since he has done more. He is also the inventor of what is known as the Jilani spring, and the Jilani spring is earlier on, when children used to get brain injuries, it used to be very difficult to resuscitate that child back into normal functions because of the cranium had damaged the brain. So he developed this Jilani spring, which basically slowly moved the cranium back without damaging the brain, and it had to happen slowly. He teamed up with some engineers also to work on this, and he gave this technology for free for everybody to use and did not patent it, so that everybody can use it, and done a great service to humanity because of that. I am honored to tell you that he is my cousin brother as well. He is the grandson of Professor Saifuddin, who is also my grandfather, and Professor Saifuddin's daughter was an engineer, one of the first women engineers in Kashmir, and he is her son, Engineer Razia Saf. Walid Abdullati is NASA chief scientist and is a spokesman for NASA as well. He's one of the top scientists responsible for what is called remote sensing technology. And using remote sensing, if I may show you this in a little bit more detail, got these remote sensing satellites that basically hover the Earth and pick up data, and then they are processed with various supercomputers to assess what is happening on the Earth. And he is responsible for this technology, which is called satellite remote sensing. This is also used in data collection for climate change data. Rather than simply looking at ice cores, we can also see from these satellites what kind of changes we are undergoing in a real-time basis. as you look at the annual ice melt, or any other element you want to look at the changes. Recently also we discovered that plumes of oxygen are being released in the ocean by diatoms, and that was picked up by these remote sensing satellites. And the diatoms are microplankton, but they are also very vulnerable to ocean acidification. So if the oceans get acidified, it will also damage the plankton. So without this technology, we would not really have known that, because diatoms are very susceptible to ocean acidification. On the pH scale, if they go slightly acidic, we might kill all the diatoms on this planet. So not only is 30% of the Earth's atmosphere getting its oxygen from diatoms, but also they sequester carbon dioxide simultaneously. And this technology was responsible for informing us about that. Another pioneer scientist of solar reactor design technology is Nasrin Oslop. She's worked for NASA and various other organizations, and she has developed this design for kind of reactors. You can see it over here, using solar hybrid hydrogen production cycle with in situ thermal energy storage, and the applications are in industry for transportation to developing various hydrogen power technologies, solar power technologies, and multiple other different technologies. So she is the winner of multiple prizes in her field. Nasrin Oslop, I believe she's originally from Turkey, but studied in the US and done a lot of research over there. Muhammad Abdus Salam, a Nobel Prize winning physicist. Ahmed Zewail, a father of modern pharbitochemistry, teaches at Caltech, I believe, and again a Nobel Prize winning scientist in chemistry. The Fields Prize in Mathematics and Complex Geometries was given to Mariam Mirzakhani, and she recently passed away due to cancer, but left quite a legacy for women in mathematics to win the Fields Prize and various other honors other than the Fields Prize. There is Mariam over here, and let's have a quick look at what she had to say eventually. This quote, I really got inspired by her, and I read some of her works, and this one in particular is quite poignant. The beauty of mathematics only shows itself to more patient followers. Stanford University professor Mariam Mirzakhani is the first woman to win the Fields Medal, known as the Nobel Prize for Mathematics, since the award was established in 1936. So discover the empirical scientific heritage of Islamic civilization. That's what these templates are generally titled as. So in the scientific philosophy, we have one of the very well-known poet philosophers is Rumi. I've done one of my books is called Rumi, Soul Healer, and I gain a lot of inspiration from him. I've gained a lot of inspiration from Rumi's works, which is Masnavi Manavi with spiritual couplets, and Diwan Shams and various others. Let's read this again. Rumi is the most read poet in America. Many poetry lovers acknowledge Rumi as one of the world's most beloved poets. Rumi's influence transcends national borders, religious and ethnic divisions. A treasure of classic world literature are his poetic works Masnavi and Diwan Shams. So let's quickly have a look at this over here. UNESCO celebrated the 800th anniversary of Maulana's birth at its Paris headquarters. Director General Kirohiro Masasuri inaugurated a day-long program of cultural events on 6 September 2007, highlighted by the launch of a commemorative medal stuck by the Paris Mint. Obverse side bears a portrait of the poet. The reverse features the UNESCO logo, which is over here. So there's some of the poems that he actually talks about evolution from a metaphysical as well as an organic perspective. I'll quickly read this poem, and it's mentioned in my book on Rumi as well. I died a mineral and became a plant. I died a plant and rose to animal. I died an animal and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man, to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul, I shall become what no mind e'er conceived. Oh, let me not exist, nor non-existence proclaims in organ tones, to God we shall return. A couple more. The religion of love is different from all religions for lovers. Religion and denomination is God alone. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I will meet you there. Stop acting so small, you are the universe in a static motion. You were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life? Everything in the universe is within you. Ask all from yourself. There is a candle in your heart, ready to be kindled. There is a void in your soul, ready to be filled. You feel it, don't you? Certainly. So there goes Rumi, and very popular worldwide, not only from metaphysical point of view, but upliftment of the human condition. There was an observatory also outside his university that he had set up in Konya. And I believe Plato's grave is actually very close to where his observatory was positioned, outskirts of Konya. There is a lot of work happening worldwide on Rumi, and his worldviews have caught like a fire to resuscitate humanity out of dogmas and orthodoxy into a much healing perspective from common denominators in all the faith traditions and original unadulterated scriptures. Sir Muhammad Iqbal is a poet philosopher, well known worldwide for his ideas about upliftment of the human condition as a whole, getting rid of tyranny as well as orthodoxy, both in religion as well as in politics, including science, looking at human beings as as a single species, looking at mankind to work collectively for upliftment of the human condition. As I have mentioned earlier, one of my main motivations to do this work has come from his book Reconstruction, including his poetry, Javednama in particular, Armgan Hijaz, Asrar Khudi, to name but a few. So let's look at some of the poems by some of the quotes from the Reconstruction. The scientific observer of nature is a kind of mystic seeker in the act of prayer. This really kind of explains the whole issue over here. Raise yourself to such a level that before asking God, God will ask you, what is it that you want? This one is very popular. Raise above sectional interests and primitive ambitions. Pass from matter to spirit. Matter is diversity. Spirit is light, life and unity. Be not entangled in this world of days and nights. We have to traverse multiple dimensions of space, time and space as well. Be not entangled. Be not entangled in this world of days and nights. You have to traverse multiple dimensions of time and space as well. इसी रोज और शब में उलझ कर न रह जा कि तेरे सामने ज़मान और मकान और भी है. That is the Urdu rendition of this last poem. And this one in Urdu is खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर
तीर से पहले
बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So these are some of his works in English: Development of Metaphysics in Persia, which is his thesis; The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, which canonizes his philosophical position and articulates him as a person of high repute in philosophy, and a trans-disciplinary philosophy of humanities, science, and so on and so forth. So these are some of his works in Urdu: Shikwa Jab Shikwa, very popular; Bangedara, Bala Jibril, Gabriel's Wing, also translated by Anne-Marie Schmel of Heidelberg University; Sarb Khalim, his Farsi works: Asrar Khudi, Ramuz Be-Khudi, Bana Mashriq, Zabur Ajam, Javednama, Hashchin, Bayat Kharat, Armgan Hijaz. Okay, just quickly read this. Sir Muhammad Iqbal is perhaps the only person in modern philosophy who bridged the gap of about 600 years of decline in the Muslim philosophical thought, as expressed in his monumental work, Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, based on his 6th lecture delivered at the University of Oxford. His thoughts have been very influential throughout the world. He created a fresh synthesis of East and West to blend into a new light of global consciousness.